and I'm about to go live now as well.
Okay. Let me share it as well.
Yeah, so give it a second, and then there's normally like a little delay.
Yes.
Okay. Can you see there? So top corner of it says we've got
live custom live streaming service.
Yep. So it's your show now. It's all you.
Okay. All right. A very good afternoon here in Kenya. It is about 12:59 p.m. And sorry for the delay, but we are back. We always bounce back. And thank you so much for your patience, our special guest, Bradley Tyack, hoping that that's the correct pronunciation once again. Bradley Tyack is a champion of men's mental health. This is something that is very rare. Hardly do people focus on men, especially their mental health, because in Africa, people tend to have a stereotype that men are supposed to be strong. They are not supposed to expose their feelings. They are not supposed to be seen as a weak vessel. But Bradley, having grown in Africa, South Africa to be specific, a radio host, one of the leading radio hosts in Southern Africa, decided to do something about men's mental health. I don't know why. We'll be indulging into that very soon. But feel welcome. Karibu, that is Swahili for welcome, Bradley. And please tell us more about yourself, Brad.
Yeah, thanks, Belinda. I mean, that's a grand entrance that you've given me there. Like, yeah, I was on radio in South Africa. I'm not sure that I was one of the best, but I was definitely there. And yeah, I grew up in South Africa. Yeah, and thank you. So yeah, I work in men's mental and emotional health, and just helping men perform better in the world, right? Like to understand their masculinity. And you said something interesting there on, you know, your intro, and it's true. But you know, it's all over the world. But in Africa, there's definitely a stigma that you know, being vulnerable and talking about things that affect us either emotionally or mentally is seen as a weakness. Yeah. And I used to feel exactly the same way. So it isn't that they will be weak, but on, you know, en masse for men around the world, it's seen as a weakness. And historically, you know, we're told to suppress our feelings, and we're also taught that the only good emotion to express is anger. You know, a lot of the times. But when I'm angry, people don't like it. So I do add mental health into the title of what I do, because I think people understand it that way. But what I do focus mainly on is the emotional side of things, because the emotions, there is a link. There's definitely a link, and there's some things that can be described as strictly mental health. But what, from my side, what it is it's about learning how to understand, balance, and kind of manage my emotions in a good way. So. And I think that's an important message for men all over the world. Yeah, I mean, as you know, I was telling you just now, my father died on the weekend, on Friday.
My condolences.
Yeah, thank you. No, I appreciate that. I mean, you know, it's also a bit of a strange relationship. I'm not quite sure how I feel. I hadn't seen him very much. We weren't very close, but at the same time, he was my father. The thing about that,
was he a Briton as well?
So he was born here in so I live in England now. He was born in England, and yeah, and then moved to South Africa. I moved to South Africa when I was 1. So yeah, I was born in England, and I identify as being South African, though, right? But the reason I mentioned that as well is because, you know, 10 or 15 years ago, certainly 10, 11 years ago, like I wouldn't have been able to process an event like this in my life. At the same time, my woman is pregnant, and we're going for a 3-month scan today. So it's crazy how, you know, one life ends and another begins.
Yeah.
But these are really big life occurrences. And in the past, the way I would have handled both of these is I would have ran away from them, right? And what I used to do is I used to sort of use drugs and alcohol and anger and fighting and gambling and all of these sorts of things to deal with emotions and emotional circumstances and events that I didn't know how to cope with. And fortunately, because of the personal work that I've done and the kind of work that I like to bring to the world and to men and to young boys, I'm today still I'm able to manage it and still live a good life and have a positive impact, or at least not a negative impact on the people around me. And yesterday, I went to see my brother who lives around the corner from me now. And, you know, we started arguing. And we're arguing because he was in a situation where he was feeling emotional and sad, and he didn't want to express his emotions. And then he walked away, and then eventually I came back, and really what needed to happen was he needed a hug. Yeah.
Just a simple hug.
Yeah, he needed a hug, and he burst into tears. Yeah, and then that led to me having a little cry with him as well. And I don't normally cry, and it was literally just one tear, but I don't normally cry. Yeah, and that's the you know the that's how far I've come in my journey, because I would not have been able to have that experience with him in this moment. And from that, both of us are so much better. So that's an example of the most vulnerable that I can think of being, you know, as an example. And it doesn't always have to get that way either. But yeah, what's important.
Let me just interject a little bit. Have you had anyone to comfort you as well, just to console you?
Yeah, so, you know, there's people around me. And that's an interesting point. Thank you, because in the past as well, before this work that I've done and the kind of work that I bring to the world, I would not have been able to accept comfort from anybody else as a man who was afraid of my emotions and thought, like, I'm too tough for this. I don't need this. Yeah. So I have been able to accept it from my brother and my sister and my woman and people around me as well. I could probably do better, but I have received some, and I'm allowing that to happen. And the me in the past wouldn't have allowed that to happen. And growing up, that got me arrested, you know, that got me into fights, because all I was angry all the time. And I didn't understand my emotions. And every time I wanted to express them, the people around me, my experience was they didn't allow me to. So we provide a safe space for men to be able to grow, to understand, to learn about what emotions are, how their emotions affect themselves, how that affects their mental well-being and their overall physical well-being, and then how that impacts, you know, how their actions impact not just themselves, their families, their countries, their communities, and the world around them as well. So, I mean, I hope that sort of, you know, that's maybe not the question you asked, but that's a real life, real
scenario, right, exactly. That really portrays what happens in our real lives. And your example, once again, I'm so sorry, but I receive a hug from me. Can you receive a virtual hug?
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah, but that happens a lot, especially when I saw my father, when he lost his mom. I was so young, but I noticed that he didn't cry. Every other person cried apart from him. My mom cried, my auntie cried, yet that was not their real mom. But my dad didn't cry. And it took him quite some time just to synthesize and to accept that he had lost his mom. I must have been in primary school, but I realized that my dad didn't cry. Later on, I came to understand that men are brought up to hide their feelings. They're supposed to hide their emotions, which is not good, because with time, it catches up with them. You know, what happens, like I want to just ask you that question. What happens now when you have an emotional outburst?
So yeah, thanks. And to just reiterate, it's not all about crying all the time, because crying is related to grief and sadness.
Grief.
And there is a level there is a level of dealing with emotions. So an emotional outburst for me as well could be anger. It could be like, I just want to punch something, or I want to kick something. Sometimes I just want to headbutt something, you know. I'm not gonna lie, it happens. But
do you headbutt people or just things?
No, just things. So we the kind of work we do as well, we set that up. We've got boxing gloves, we've got bats, we've got pads. We get together, we work on a process to help people get things like that out in a good way, in a good space, so that it doesn't hurt the rest of the world. Because realistically, women would have it too. Yeah, you know, anger is a good thing. Anger is a good thing. We just need to know how to use it. And like you say, you know, if we keep things inside,
internalizing as opposed to externalizing,
it's going to make us sick. Like cancer comes from that kind of stuff, man. Do you know what I mean?
Cancer.
Yeah, like disease. If you're keeping those emotions and those things inside of you, it's going to make you sick eventually. Like injuries, sometimes people get pains. A lot of the time, there's a real practical, physical reason why. But stress, people carry stress on their shoulders. Sometimes you're carrying weight in your stomach or something like that, you know, because of the weight and the pressure of the emotions that you can't release. So fair to say, to answer to your question, you know, and I still have to practice today. Don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect at this, right? There's many times where I pretend like I'm fine and I'm not, and then I have to go back and go, all right, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. But naturally, I feel better. And yesterday, after that experience with my brother as well, and after he managed to release himself, boom, you can see it, the person change immediately. You can see the change in the person. The pressure's been released, the poison's been let out, and everything starts to settle, and that person becomes calm and happy again, you know, a little bit more connected to the world around it.
So from what I can understand, it's also good to have someone around you when you're having, when you've lost someone close, or when you're having emotional issues. It's good to have someone that you can trust around you. Am I getting you correctly?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it has to be somebody that you trust, I think. I mean, unless you're really desperate, we're very rarely going to seek and confide in people that we don't know, right? And one thing Africa's really strong on is community, right? Is community.
Yes.
And community is important, like no matter what. So if I want you to come to me when you're in a time of need, then I also need to reciprocate that. And I need to allow you to help me too at that time of need. And you know, it's good to have people around you for sure that you can go to with these things. A lot of the times, most people are just your average everyday person. They mean well and they're trying to help, and they'll listen to you, and that helps. My advice is, like, if you're going to take a car to get fixed, you know, you're not going to take it to a carpenter, you're going to take it to a mechanic.
Of course.
Yeah. So you need to, so there are people who are trained, like you as well, who know what they're doing when it comes to psychology, psychotherapy, you know, how humans work and how they operate. So my suggestion would be, find somebody who is a mechanic for the emotions.
For your diagnosis, yes.
Yeah. Because they know what they're doing. And it's a funny thing, isn't it? When it comes to ourselves personally as human beings, when it comes to our emotions and our mental health and things, we always think we know better.
Yeah.
But if it was physical health, if there's something wrong with my heart, man, I'm going to
go to a cardiologist.
I'm going to a heart surgeon.
You can't go to a dentist.
Yeah, exactly. And if there's something wrong with my tooth, then I will go to a dentist. But you know, people, when it comes to their feelings and emotions, they think they've all got it worked out. They watch a couple of YouTube videos. Maybe they've seen Dr. Phil.
Self-prescription.
Yeah, and that's great. But at the end of the day, to you know, it's really helpful to have somebody around you that knows what they're doing as well. And I recommend that everybody needs somebody. You know, we all need friends, we all need mentors, we all need coaches. And yeah, it's really about, the irony as well is that, you know, the more vulnerable I've been able to become in the world, the better man I've been able to become for the world, for the family. I wouldn't have been in a position where I was about to have a child if, you know, the way my life was. I did do some great things. I worked on radio. I had some businesses, and at the same time, I've messed things up in my life before because, I was just wild. I was reckless. I wasn't treating myself well. I was drinking. I was using drugs. I was behaving badly. All of these sorts of things, and I would never have been the person I am today.
Can I arrange for a session whereby you just tell me about your previous life?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm an open book. I'll share it all. It's important. And it's important, for me, because experience is what counts. And we all have different experiences, but some of those things can be the same. And what I remember feeling lost. And I remember feeling like no one understood me. And I remember feeling like no one could help me. And then I remember feeling like a failure.
Oh yeah.
And that didn't help. So I found this, and it doesn't stop life from happening. Yeah. But it helps me to manage things in a better way. And then when things get a bit too much for me, I've got people I speak to as well. And I think it's important not just for young boys, but also adults. It is very important to focus on children and how we develop them emotionally. And we kind of neglect the fact that adults were children too once, and they didn't get the right information.
Yes.
So we've got to work with our adults to be better for our children.
It should be a 360-degree, work.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so much to say. So I could talk for ages, and I hope I'm answering your questions in a good way.
Yeah, you do. You are. And I would like to let the audience know that, Brad and I attend a couple of classes and workshops together on emotional intelligence. Yes.
That's right.
Yeah, and he's way ahead of me in that capacity. That is, yes. You started it way before I did. Right. Yeah, so that is why I invited him, just to speak to the men. But we have to be inclusive when we are also addressing the men's mental health. We have to also request women to support men.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. And vice versa.
And vice versa. Yes. That is why I am a woman and I'm speaking to a man concerning men's mental health. And to just ask you, it's a very out of place question, but I want to see your reaction. Okay. Who was your crush when you were 15 years old?
Well, I hope my current woman doesn't watch this podcast.
15 years, you are 15 years, for crying out loud.
Do you mean like a celebrity crush?
Yes, celebrity crush.
Oh, there were so many, man. There were so many. If this is going to sound really weird, but I think it was probably like a couple of the Spice Girls. You know what I mean? At the time.
Spice
Girls. And who was the actress at the time? I don't know. Maybe like, I don't know. Well, there was always like Cindy Crawford and all of those sorts of things. But yeah, I'd say I'll stick with the Spice Girls. It is what it is. I was 15.
Spice Girls, okay. What would you like to tell Spice Girls now?
Probably Baby Spice or Ginger Spice or something like that. I don't know.
Oh, this is fantastic for real.
Yeah. Oh, but in fairness, there were so many. Like, it's difficult to think now. But yeah. So.
Okay, to the audience, Brad runs a podcast called Mantastic, like man-tastic. I thought that it is so fantastic to have Mantastic, you understand, just doing something about the men, giving them psychosocial support and the kind of support that men require to become great in the society. So Brad, what is the difference between coaching and counseling? We get it wrong here in Africa. Sometimes when you're told, go for coaching, some people confuse a coach and a counselor. So you go to a coach with the mentality of a counselor. And some people also fear coaching because they think coaching is counseling. So just give us the difference and how both can help someone to grow in life.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a very good question. And like, I'm not necessarily an expert on this, but I'll give you just my my understanding of it.
Your opinion, yes.
And it counts with like therapy as well. So
Yes.
counseling, therapy, all of that sort of stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, well, there are slightly different ways of approaching the you know modalities when it comes to counseling. So I'm not negating counselors or therapists or any of that sort of stuff. But
Yeah.
counseling is very much a talking therapy.
Yeah.
It's very much a talking therapy. So in all of the modalities, coaching, counseling, and therapy, it's meant to be about the client. It's never about the person on the other end. Counseling is predominantly like a talking therapy in that they listen and they let you talk. That's it, really. I mean, there are some other little bits and pieces in between, but they'll let you talk and then come up with your own solutions. Strictly, as far as I'm aware, and I stand corrected on this. Somebody else can fill me in. Therapy delves a little bit more into the deeper sort of like you were talking about psycho analysis and psychology and stuff. Coaching for me is the reason I do coaching as well is because I find that it's more active. Yeah, like we're not bound by as many restrictions in coaching. Whilst there is classic coaching and that's there's a particular format, we still allow the client to come up with their own solutions, but we are a little bit more directive. We get a little bit more involved. Now, having said that, that changes from person to person. The nice thing with coaching is there's so many different modalities, and then a coach can be a PhD in something as well.
Yeah.
And they can have a master's degree in psychology, and they can have all of these things. They could have been a counselor before.
Yeah.
But they work as a coach, so they are very well qualified. And equally, there's some people who aren't as well qualified, but I think that goes for everything. So what I like to do is I like to mix it up. That's why I call what we do coaching and mentoring, because there's an element of sharing our wisdom and experience with the person as well. And we get more active with the person. We get in there instead of standing back and looking at the car and letting it run its engine, right? We get in there with the hammer and a spanner and a screwdriver and all of that stuff, and we're helping. We knock about a few things and we help them sort themselves out. So I'd say counseling is a little bit more like standing back and listening to them rev the engine, and coaching for me is about standing back, listening to the engine, and then sort of growling with the engine a little bit sometimes as well, and getting in there and helping knock things about and straighten up things and helping them to perform better. Yeah.
Wow.
Upgrading the vehicle.
That's good. That's good. So if you're a man and you're listening to this either now or even 50 years from now, just know that, yes, because this will exist even once we are gone, this content will be there.
That's right. And then we can say in 50 years' time that that's how we looked at one point in our lives.
Yeah. Yes. So you can look for coaches to help you with your mental health, and that leads me to the next question. What's your best dish?
Cooking.
No, your best food.
Food to eat.
You like eating, yes.
Man, it's too much as well. Like, it's crazy. Obviously, I'm from South Africa, so I always like what we call a braai. You know what a braai is?
Pardon?
Yeah, braai. They call it a barbecue in the England.
Okay.
But we have a thing called boerewors, which is it's like a South African beef sausage. We cook it on the fire like that. So I really like that. But equally, I love all sorts of food, man. I love Thai food.
It's called nyama choma. Nyama choma.
Nyama choma, yeah.
Yes.
Nyama choma. Yeah, we call it boerewors in South Africa. But yeah, so that. But also, I like Thai food. I love Greek food. I love eating food, man. I love eating all sorts of food. Yeah. I like to share. I like to share.
Like sharing. Okay.
Yeah.
So that is why you are sharing nuggets. They're not nuggets of food, but nuggets of mental health here.
Hopefully, with any luck. Yeah.
So the reason as to why I was asking about your best food is to know whether food affects someone's mental health.
I think that it definitely affects people's physical well-being, right? So I know for myself as well, what I put in is what I get out. Like,
Oh yeah, oh yes.
it's the same with the car. Like with the kind of petrol, the kind of fuel you're putting in, what you're looking after, that's what you're going to get out. And I feel better when I'm eating certain things and not eating other things. And that has a direct impact on how I feel, how I'm thinking. So
Yeah.
that's what's important. The mental is connected to the emotional. The
Oh
emotions are in the
yeah.
body.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, and it's definitely got to do with energy levels and things like that. So when it comes to looking after ourselves and being in the best mental and emotional condition that we can be, like there's nothing really that can be ignored. You know, we've got to look after ourselves. We have to sleep. You know, we have to get enough rest. We have to eat.
Yes.
Exercise, like just exercise. Exercise. And all of these sorts of things. I mean, rest, time down, meditate, you know, whatever it takes, time in nature. These things are super important. Like I don't start my day anymore without, I mean, I've got a baby on the way, so that may change for a little while, but I try my best to every morning take at least 15 minutes of just sitting in silence before I do anything else. So food, all around well-being, definitely important. Yeah.
Amazing. So you've heard that the food you eat affects how you feel, how you feel, affects how you think. So make sure you get the right food into your gut, because your gut is connected to your mental health.
Absolutely. And there's a nerve called the vagus nerve, isn't it? And that connects the stomach all the way to the brain. It's called the vagus nerve.
The Vegas.
It's called the vagus nerve, yeah.
Vagus nerve. Wow, I've learned about that. I didn't know that though. So in the interest of time, and we had agreed that we are doing this for a short time, I just want us to end there. And then we'll come back with another episode, probably 2 or 3 weeks from now, so that we continue with this conversation, because I believe so many people all over the world are going to benefit from this. Yes, so Brad, Tyack, what's your parting shots?
What's my parting shot?
Yes.
Yeah, just thank you very much, man. It's been great to chat to you, you know, and there's a lot going on for me at the moment, and I really love just getting on and talking about these things, and I appreciate the effort that you're putting into all of this and the work that you're doing. Yeah, and I love the fact that you're in Kenya, and that this is a, you know, this is a connection with Kenya.
Yes.
So yeah, thanks very much, and yeah, just everybody keep doing the next right thing, you know. And it'll work out.
Okay, that was your parting shot to the world. Now, what's your parting shot to your woman?
There is none, because I'm not going anywhere.
I love that. And I love the fact that amidst everything going on right now, you can afford a smile. You know?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes, at least you can afford a smile, and that gives us hope that even you should not allow the things that you're going through to weigh you down. You must come on top of your problems. And I love that about you. Thank you so much, Brad. And I'm very, very grateful. Pass my regards to your people. And I know that we'll still continue with this conversation as we have promised our audience. And yes, that's it from us. I'm your host, all the way from Kenya, Belinda Odhiambo. Up until next time, bye-bye. And remember to share this video. Yes.
Good point. Thanks, Belinda. All right. Ciao. Bye. There we go.